Let's add our first custom items to Minecraft 121 with NeoForge. 121 Minecraft modding course is available down below, with over 11 hours of content covering everything from the basics all the way to block entities and custom mobs. Alright, we found ourselves back in Intelligence More, and in this tutorial we'll be adding custom items over here to our NeoForge project, and it's going to be absolutely freaking fantastic. So for this, what we'll need is a completely custom class. Now, the reason why I like to make a custom class is to keep everything neat and tidy. This is like rule number, maybe it's like rule number 3, not quite number 1, but it's like a very important thing in programming. Keep everything tidy, and then you're basically going to be good to go. So in net Kaupenjoe tutorial mod, those are our packages, right? In the tutorial mod package, we're going to right click and then hit new package. Then we will simply put in the name item here, or lowercase, and that's going to be our item package. In there, we'll create a new Java class. So on the item package, right click, new Java class, and we'll call this ModItems. Once again, notice the spelling. The class follows the actual spelling of the Java conventions, meaning classes start with an uppercase character, and then every subsequent word in that name actually also has an uppercase character. So ModItems. Hit enter. If this file dialog appears over here, add file to Git, because you have a GitHub repository associated with it, simply hit add. You can also hit don't ask me again, then it's going to automatically add this, but you can see then it turns from a red named class basically to a green class, right? If it's red, that is not an issue. The only issue you might have if it is underlined red, right? Underlined red means there's a mistake. If the name itself is red, then you're good to go. That just means that it hasn't been added to the next commit for your GitHub repository. That's it. And now the question is, how do we register items? Because of course we somehow need to be able to tell the game, or maybe, you know, in this case, NeoForge, we need to tell NeoForge, hey, these are our items, right? This is what they do. This is their craziness. This is their name, all of that stuff. And the way we do this is with a deferred register. Now, luckily, and this is really cool, NeoForge offers us some very unique and awesome tiny things. So the first thing we're going to say is we're going to make a public, we're going to make a static, and we're going to make a final. So this is going to be a public, static, final. And then what is this going to be? This is a deferred register. So we're going to start typing in deferred register, and you can see there's quite a few things that start with deferred. In this case, we want to choose the deferred register over here from net NeoForge registries. And when you click on this, you can simply hit the tab key to autocomplete this, and you see that then this import appeared here as well. That is pretty important, right? So you need this import. If the import did not appear for some reason, right, and the name is red, what you can do is if it doesn't appear, then you can click on this. You can see usually it gets an underline, and you can hit Alt and Enter, and it will then also import that particular class. But that's not all, because we want to say immediately after the deferred register, we want to say dot, and then you can see it then suggests to us 3 more things: items, blocks, and data components. Well, in this case, we don't want to use blocks. We actually want to use items here in this case. And then this is going to be called items all uppercase equal to deferred register. And you can actually see if we just start typing in, there's always going to be some suggestions to us. And the suggestion we want to take is this one right here, deferred register.create items. Simply once again, click on it, press tab to autocomplete it, and it's going to autocomplete this entire line right here. And then inside of here, we want to say tutorial mod. This basically refers back to our main class, right? Tutorial mod dot, and then use mod ID over here. So once again, we can simply hit the tab key to autocomplete this and end the entire line with a semicolon, and then we are good and no errors should be present. As always, of course, all of the code is available down below in the GitHub repository, so you should be good to go, right? The first question, of course, is what the frick is even a deferred register? Now, if you hover over this, NeoForge offers you some awesome freaking examples and some amount of things, right? So you can see this is a helper class in aiding to register objects to modded and vanilla registries. You know, as a high level overview, the way that I like to describe a deferred register is like a long list of all of the items that you want to register. And the reason why it is deferred is because it basically says, okay, just give me all of the items that you want to register, give me their attributes, right? Give me their properties, all of that, give it to me. And then when the time comes, right, that is why it's deferred, right? When the time comes, then I'm going to basically tell Minecraft, hey, you also want to add those items under, and this is a cool thing, under your mod ID. This is why we have to supply the mod ID right here so that it knows, oh, okay, those are actually under, in this case, tutorial mod, the mod ID. Pretty cool. And for this list, right, this deferred register, quote unquote list, to be properly registered as well, we then need another method. And that is going to be a public static void. We're going to call this the register method. And it's going to have one parameter over here. And that is the EIGENWERBUNG, as you can see from NeoForge bus API. Once again, you can simply hit the tab key to autocomplete this. And of course, we need to give this a name. It's going to be event bus. And then we finish this method over here. And the method itself is extremely easy. We simply want to call the items deferred register, right? So items dot, and then we want to call the register method, this one right here, and then passing in the event bus that we have right here. So simply event bus, and you can see that once we do this and end it with a semicolon, once again, no errors are present. And the last step before we actually properly, well, register the item, we want to call this register method in our main mod class constructor. So we want to double click on tutorial mod again. And then in the tutorial mod constructor right here, right? So this is the constructor. We want to basically simply call this. It is as easy as going, and we're going to go below the event bus right here. We'll simply then say ModItems.register. So we're calling the register method and then passing in the mod event bus. There you go. And then once again, ending with a semicolon. Sometimes you have to import the class once again. Just Alt and Enter and import the class. And then you're good to go. Well, then let's switch back to the ModItems class, and we can finally actually register the first item. So this is going to be a public static final. Basically, almost all of your items are always going to be public, static, and final. And this is going to be a deferred item in this case. So deferred item, as you can see, and then you hit a tab to autocomplete. It's going to import that particular class, and then you need the angled brackets. And in those angled brackets, you have a type. So basically what I'm going to say is I'm going to say a deferred item of type, in this case, item. Make sure to choose the class from net Minecraft world item. Once again, hit tab to autocomplete it. It is going to import that class, and then we can give it a name. This is the name of the field inside of your ModItems class. This literally could be, you know, whatever you want. And then the name in the game could be completely different. Of course, you want to make sure to know what it is. In this case, it's going to be bismuth, right? So this is going to be bismuth, all uppercase once again, because this is the name of the field inside of the class. And this is equal to the deferred register.register. So this is going to be items, right? Once again, this is the deferred registers items, right? So we're going to use this dot the register method over here. When I hit tab to autocomplete it, it's going to add those two parentheses automatically. And then I want to give it a name. The first parameter over here that we have to pass in is a string. And namely, this is going to be the name. This is the registered name. And it's extremely important that the name that we're giving this to register this with also follows the same rules that the mod ID follows. Meaning that whatever string we're giving it has to also be all lowercase. So we're going to start making a string right here with the quotation marks, and there's going to be bismuth. Then a comma afterwards, and then we're going to make a little interesting construct, and that is going to be a supplier. So we're going to do open and close parentheses. We're then going to do a minus and then a smaller than, which basically creates this little arrow right here, and that is a supplier. And what do we want to supply? We want to supply a new item in this case. In the parentheses here, you will then say new item.properties. You can see it actually already suggests this to us. So once again, we simply hit tab to autocomplete it, end all of this with a semicolon, and you're done. Once again, you can double check the code. If at any time there is an issue, double check the code down in the description below in the GitHub repository. So you should be pretty much good to go. And with this done, you now have registered the first item. And you might be amazed, but yes, in this case, this item would appear inside of the game. Now, right now, it has no proper name. It doesn't have a texture. It is not even included in any creative mode tab. So we are going to remedy this one by one. The first thing we'll do is actually add this to a creative mode tab. In this particular tutorial, we're only going to add it to a already existing creative mode tab, but that is very easy. In your tutorial mod class, if you've done the setup tutorial correctly, you should still have an add creative method. In there, we'll simply say if event.getTabKey equals, and this is going to be two equal signs because what we're doing is we're comparing this to creative mode tabs dot, and you can see we're using ingredients here in this case, so simply hit tab to autocomplete this. And in this if statement, we're then going to say if.accept and we'll say ModItems.bismuth, and there we go. That's literally all we're going to do. And so now the bismuth item, right, our custom item is going to be added to the ingredients tab, creative mode tab. That is literally all we need to do in this case. A custom creative mode tab will be made in a future tutorial. Okay, but now it still doesn't have a name. Right now the name would be item.tutorialmod.bismuth, and the texture would be a big old purple and black blob, or rather a square, but whatever the case may be, it's not right. And how do we fix this? Well, we need a structure inside of the resources right here. So once again, left side of your screen in the projects window under resources, we want to right click new directory, and this is going to be assets. Make sure this is written 100% correctly. I'm telling you, it is so easy to make a typo here. Make sure that this is correctly written and double check it after we're done. So resources, assets, right click again, new directory. This is tutorial mod or whatever your mod ID is. Inside of the tutorial mod directory, then we need to create 3 more directories. The first one is going to be the lang, L-A-N-G. The second one, once again, going back to tutorial mod, is going to be models. And then going back to tutorial mod again, right click new directory called textures. In the models directory, you want to right click new directory called item. And the same thing happens in the textures one, textures, right click new directory called item. With that done, we can then start in the tutorial mod lang folder. The lang folder determines the translation. In our example over here in the tutorial mod series, we're simply going to add the translation for the default language, which is EN_US, right? So basically English US. You can also add translation for any other language. In this case, it's going to be exactly the same, just the name of the file changes. So tutorial mod lang, we're going to right click new file, and this is EN_US.json. Make sure, once again, this is written 100% exactly like this, EN_US.json. There you go. If this is the case, hit enter to create the file. Hit add over here. How does this file look like? It is very straightforward. You're going to have an open curly bracket, and then the closing curly bracket generates automatically. Then we're going to have a string right here. So once again, the quotation marks, and this is going to be the key. The key is, as I've previously said, item.tutorialmod.bismuth. There you go. And then a colon, and then another string, and this is going to be the translation. This is how whatever you're going to see inside of the game when you hover over the item. So this is bismuth. Note that obviously the name right here can include uppercase characters because this is no longer a key. This is the translated name, right? So very important. And once we have this, that is the first step done. Then we need an item model JSON file. Now that one can be a little bit hard to understand, but let's see. So this is in resources, assets, tutorial mod, models, item. There I'm going to right click new file. And this is the bismuth.json, right? So this is the bismuth.json file. This is an item model JSON file, the contents of which look like this. I'm going to type this out. This will be available down below as well, so no worries there at all. You can copy it over, and I'm going to explain once I've typed this out. You're going to have a parent right here, and there's going to be Minecraft:item/generated, comma, then a textures object right here, and this textures object is going to have a layer 0, and that layer 0 is going to be tutorial mod : item/bismuth. Now, what the frick is this? Well, the first step is to, if you've typed this out, right, and you haven't copied it over, absolutely no worries. Please double check all of the spelling. It is not parents. It is not parents with an uppercase P. It is parent, singular, all lowercase. Literally everything in this class is written lowercase. I don't know, that's basically one thing. And make sure that this is written all correctly. Number one. Number two, what is the parent, for example? Well, the parent is, you know that a normal item in Minecraft is not really a flat 2D item, right? It's sort of extruded a little bit in a third dimension. And that basically is what this item generated does. Then we have to define a texture, obviously, right? Because we have to say, well, wait a second, this has a particular texture, and the texture is defined as under tutorial mod namespace in the item folder, and it is called bismuth.png. How do I know this? Well, textures, and that's going to be in the textures folder, in tutorial mod, item, and then it's looking for a bismuth.png. Well, that is great because that is exactly what I have. I have prepared the bismuth and the raw underscore bismuth PNGs right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to select them and drag them over into the folder. You can see I'm going to hold Control to copy them in there, right? And if I let go, then we hit OK. And all of a sudden our two textures over here are also added. Freaking awesome. And yes, those textures are going to be available to you as well for download, so you can use them as well. And that is going to be great. And with this done, now of course raw bismuth we haven't added yet, but I'm basically spoiling here a little bit, but yeah, basically now bismuth has been added. So this is always going to be the way that we go about this. Now the first thing you might say, I always have to make a ModItems class. Absolutely not. The registration is literally just these two lines, right? These two lines will register a new item. This line will give it a proper name. This JSON file will make sure to point to the correct texture, and then obviously the texture will be the texture, right? That should be fairly self-explanatory. The way to make textures, you can use GIMP, Paint.net. Obviously, I'm personally using Photoshop. My artist uses Sprite, if I recall correctly. So there's plenty of ways to do it. One major thing is that they always have to be 16 by 16, and they should be proper PNGs. Once you are doing that, then you should be good to go. Right, and now that we've added the first item, let's just jump into the game, see our first item, and then we'll add a second item just for the people who might be a little bit confused. Okay, how do I do the second item? No worries. Let's first of all jump into the game. So once again, at the top right client, we can simply hit the run button, and then let's see our item in the game for the first time. All right, found it back in Minecraft, and let's take a look in the ingredients tab at the very bottom, and you can see, oh my Lanta, look at this. Bismuth has been added to the game, and we can throw it around, and it looks absolutely freaking fantastic. So we can see that basically the first item over here, right, adding this has been pretty, it's been an involved process, but now you'll see the second item is exponentially easier. So let's take a look at that as well. The reason why the second item is easier is because you now have the foundation, right? So once again, in the ModItems class, what we can do is simply add another deferred item right here. And that is basically enough to add the item to the game already, right? So there's going to be another public static final deferred item, of course, of type item. And this could be raw underscore bismuth equal to, once again, the item's deferred register. That register passing in the name right here, this is going to be raw bismuth in this case, and then a supplier of a new item properties, and then there you go. Now the raw bismuth is also in the game. We then want to add it to the creative mode tab. So down here in the same ingredients tab, we're going to say event.accept ModItems.raw underscore bismuth, and now it is added to the ingredients tab too. We then want a translation, so we're going to do the same thing. So a comma here at the end, very important. And then item.tutorialmod.raw underscore bismuth. The name right here, obviously, matches the name right here. That should be hopefully understood sort of from the context. And then this is raw bismuth. And now it has a proper name. Now we already have a texture. The only one thing that's still missing is the item model JSON file. In here, I want to give you a little trick, right? And that is that if you have an already existing item model JSON file that you know that works, what you can do is you can drag it into the same folder while holding Control. And if I now let go of the mouse button, I can rename this to raw underscore bismuth, which once again is the same name that we have given the item, right? And then we hit OK. And then here we simply change it to the texture that it's pointing to raw underscore bismuth. And now we don't have to type all of this crazy stuff out. That is going to be really freaking easy. And that is the second item. You can see like majorly easier to add this compared to the first item where we had to go through a lot of different things. But that is the whole idea. Let's jump into the game one more time to see our raw bismuth as well. And of course, there it is, raw bismuth. Absolutely freaking fantastic. This is the normal bismuth, but this is the raw one. There you go. So absolutely amazing. We got 2 items added to the game. I absolutely adore them, and it's going to be freaking awesome. And yeah, that is custom items added to your mod and Minecraft. Awesome. If at any time there are any issues, as I've previously said, you have to double check the spelling of everything in your assets folder, right? If there's one typo in here anywhere, then some things might not work, right? So I've basically showed you what each individual part does. So if, for example, you say, I don't have a name it either is the en_us JSON file, it is the lang folder, it is the placement of the lang folder, any of those. If you don't have a texture, it might be the texture name, it might be the textures or the item folder name, it might be the models or the item folder name, it might be the name of the JSON file, it might be something inside of the JSON file, it might be the entire assets folder. There are so many different things that you double, triple, quadruple check to make sure all of the spelling is done correctly, and then you're basically going to be good to go. But that is the first custom items, and I'm telling you, when we have custom items and we have custom blocks and a couple more things, I'm telling you, then we're going to start flying and it's going to be absolutely freaking fantastic. There's going to be so many cool things we're going to take a look at. But yeah, that's going to be it for this tutorial right here. I hope you found this useful and you learned something new. And in this video, we'll talk about custom blocks. Hope to see you there. So, yeah.